Hello there, it's Mr. Pelargonium or David Taylor, back with another one of my video blogs for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society, and many people will say, well, it's about time too, because it probably is. I would say it's probably 6 or 7 weeks since I last did a video, early October then, mid to late November now. I think I'm filming this on I think it might be the 20th today. Is it the 20th or the 19th? Anyway, one of those 2 days. Now, yeah, a lot's been going on basically. I've been a very, very busy person. There's a lot of things going on in my life with my wife. We're actually going to be moving home, but I'll talk a little bit about that and the implication that that's going to mean for my greenhouse situation a little bit later. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we've moved straight on now. It's third week, as I say, in November, and things have at long last started getting really quite cold. We had a very cold easterly wind today. And I've got the greenhouse shut just while I make this video. It's very dry and airy and blowy, so it's good in a cold, in a cool temperate climate like this, to have all the windows open on a day like today, as long as it's not below freezing, to let the air get around your plants, and they love that. It's nice and dry in here. Unlike a week or two ago, we had a quite heavy spell of rain, which did actually slightly flood one of the corners of my glasshouse here, because Pelargoniums don't like to have a lot of moisture in the air. So weather like we've got at the moment is now very dry, everything's dried up, so it's pretty good. Now, the thing is with a lot of plants, the key thing at this time of year is making sure that you get rid of any dead or dying leaves off your plants. In the winter, just make sure that, just go over your plants, a couple of times a week. You don't need to do it very often. I'm only watering my plants now once a week. They don't need any more than once a week. The light levels in the UK now are getting very low. The sun's getting very low in the sky. So the days, although we have had some relatively mild days actually for November this month, it's important to ensure that, get rid of any particularly if you get a bit damp weather, you might just start to get a little bit of damp leaves that are just begin to rot back, and it's important that you get rid of those and open your plant up. I've done a lot of leaf stripping in the last month. That's stripping off leaves to allow air circulation around your plants. This one in particular, this is just a Floribunda plant actually that's just been overgrown in a 6-inch pot, so the Floribunda class, but I've taken lots of leaves out to enable the air to get round the plant, so that on a day like today where we can open up, we can allow air to circulate around those stems, and it'll keep things like botrytis at bay, and it'll stop any leaves from rotting back. So as soon as you see any yellowing leaves, get them off. Now, there are yellow leaves and yellow leaves. At this time of year, now we go into that 2-3 month period with very low light levels. You will start to get yellow leaves growing, and that's a slightly tricky one, because you don't want to go stripping a load of those off, because that is naturally the actual lifeblood of the plant. So as an example, you'll see here in this zone Arctic, this is probably a good way of looking at it. You're seeing these yellowing leaves, which is new growth from a very hard cut back plant. If I take that one off, you can see a lot of new growth is coming through with relatively pale leaves, and this is all purely down to the light levels. The new growth is coming through, but there's not that much light in order to really get the chlorophyll in the leaves really growing strongly. So there's no real need to take a lot of these out unless they start to turn properly yellow or start to die back. Now I will leave those. You can continue to strip out some of the more mature leaves, because you're not going to do the plant any harm. I mean, this is only going to get watered about once a fortnight now, once every 2 weeks, because there's not a lot of growth on it. It's a very big, strong growing plant, but there's a dead leaf, for instance, so I'll take that off. But yeah, it's important not to get the two confused. There's dying leaves and then there's new growth leaves. It's more notable when you do get new shoots growing through in the winter. You get this very pale colour, but the leaf is very much alive, so you need to be a little bit careful not to strip out those and not to confuse them with dead or dying leaves, particularly as this is going to be the lifeblood of the plant. I mean, it's not going to do them any harm because they will colour up gradually as the time goes on and as the light levels increase next spring. And don't be confused. That's not going to harm the plant. These slightly sort of yellower leaves, purely because of the lack of light. Another example of the type of leaves that you can get in the winter are these, the reddening of the leaves. This is quite common. This just means that the plants come under a little bit of stress due to the colder weather and the varying temperatures that we get, particularly in the UK in the autumn and indeed the spring. So when there's still quite a bit of leaf growth still left on this plant, I can strip these off now without harming the plant very much at all. As I said, the light levels are very, very low, so we're not going to cause the plant any issues. I'm hardly watering this. This will be watered once a week or once a fortnight as the time goes on. I'm trying to do this one-handed and not doing a very good job of it. It is actually working. The plants are snapping. You will find that the leaves will snap off from the stem relatively easily. So I'm going to just get rid of all of these leaves. This is probably a plant that I haven't really opened up properly anyway, so getting rid of these leaves here is not going to do the plant any harm whatsoever, because I should have done it anyway in order to stop any potential issues with botrytis, which does cause more of a problem for the zonal types. Now you see I've got a flower stem here, and that, because I'm an exhibitor, I will take that out. That's going to go. I've got another central leaf there that's got red on it, which I'm just going to get rid of, easily break off. There's a couple more, and there's another one there. I'll take that one off, and I'll take that one off. See, that's yellowing. That's yellowing with a bit of red on the end, so that could all be taken away. And a final one underneath. I wasn't planning to do this, but that's probably a good example of one. And everything left on it is a nice solid green, but a slightly paler one there that I'll remove as well. So I'm quite amazed that I've been able to do that one-handed. So there we go. And that's fine. That's been opened up. So that's very much how I would like the plant to be. It's been opened up now. Air can get around it. There's no problems in there at all. There's no botrytis, but it will just help keep that plant to grow through the winter. Right, now I did mention about bloom, and realistically, if you are in a sort of greenhouse environment, you need to be very careful. Now, you can keep bloom as long as you keep an eye on it. Now, here's a plant. I think this is probably one of my Shrivenham stars, yeah. And this is blooming. Of course, one of the things that can be nice is that blooms can get on a nice, sort of slightly richer colour in the sort of autumn, winter and early spring period, because there's less light to bleach them. And Shrivenham Star is looking a bit darker and a bit more lilac at this time of year. It's normally a creamy pink, but it is quite dark now because of the fact that there's no light, there's no strong sunlight to bleach the blooms. So it's not a problem at all. If you want to keep blooms in your glasshouse over winter in a temperate climate, the only thing I would say is just keep an eye on them, because as soon as they begin to go underneath, just snap off the stem, because they'll rot down into the leaves, and then that's when you get all of the problems with rot, with a bit of botrytis, and that sort of thing. So you need to be very careful with blooms. If you're going to keep blooms in your glass house during the winter, you won't get many generally of them anyway, depending on how hard you cut them back in the autumn, of course. Most exhibitors will not have too much bloom, such as myself, at this time of year through the winter. But I've got the odd one, and there's one. I've just snapped that one off because it's just a little hint that it's starting to rot back at the base. So I'm just going to take that one off. There's no evidence of any debris at all underneath it. I mean, this particular plant in question, I have actually stripped out loads of leaves, but it is so compact. It is actually really difficult to strip it out. It's so compact and tight.